What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode review for Bleach: The Thousand Year Blood War. This is episode 7, and with me, as always, I have Blue Spade.
hmm Well, I can definitely say, God, how do I describe this? This episode just is just God mode.
Yeah, I like how it started out because I'm pretty sure like the intro scene actually wasn't in the manga, and a lot of people are confirming that this wasn't actually in the manga. So we actually have an anime original scene that starts off the episode, which is pretty much the first Quincy invasion of the Soul Society.
Yeah,
Um, it kind of expands on some of the stuff we saw in the flashback sequences in the last episode, where it's a younger version of Yamamoto versus Yawak, as well as showing the original Gote 13, which we actually, before this episode aired, we got a original illustration from Kubo that was of the original Gote 13. So a lot of people were asking questions about that, like what this illustration was for, and well, when this episode aired, we got to find out what the I guess why Kubo did that.
yeah. I initially thought that he might be planning on some sort of spin-off series, though.
Yeah,
Though this may have been part of the reason as to why he released that illustration is to reveal the original Gote 13, and I gotta say they're the most ruthless bunch. Um, you know, like compared to the present day Gote 13, the original ones are just absolutely ruthless against the Quincy army.
yeah. Even Yawak was saying how each member of the original Gote 13 was kind of like basically they were all like Kenpachi. They were all bloodthirsty and just and they were just completely ruthless. Um, and also, if you noticed, we actually saw Unohana in that flashback too. She
Mm,
was part of the original Gote 13 as well, and um, it might be surprised a lot of anime only watchers to see Unohana like this, because that's not how we know her from the original series, of course, because she's more like a medical person, like she heals people mainly. Um, but without spoiling anything, I'll say like her past is very, very different. We're gonna get more of that later on in the arc, but it
yeah,
seems like here we're just getting a tease of it mostly.
it's definitely a tease in this episode showing us the original Gote 13. But I feel like with all this new anime original content that they're putting into this show, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually had like a spin-off, like filler anime episode featuring the original Gote.
It's either that or Kubo is planning to have them show up in the Hell arc he's doing in the manga,
hmm
because they could show up there.
Yeah, it's been a while since he released. Yeah, actually, I can't remember the last time he released that chapter. It's like
I
what 2-3 years ago.
I want to say it's probably because he's currently working with the production staff for the Thousand Year Blood War anime.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, basically we get an expanded version of the flashback that we saw in the last episode, with the Quincy's that were actually resurrected with Yamamoto's Bankai. We actually get to see some of them and how they got killed.
hmm
Um, and we see basically a confrontation with. Well, it's actually sort of like the polar opposite of what's currently happening, where um, the Shinigami are just getting completely slaughtered. But in this flashback, it's kind of the opposite. Like the Quincy were just pretty much annihilated. Like there's literally a pile, like a mountain of corpses, that Yawak is standing on, and we see Yamamoto approach him, and it's kind of interesting, because we did briefly see. I thought that was Sasakibe in the flashback sequence in the last episode. We pretty much get confirmation it was actually Sasakibe that was like standing on the mountain of corpses behind Yawak, because he comes up behind Yawak and actually stabs him, and I think he activates his Bankai as well. Um, so that was pretty interesting, but that's pretty much the majority of the flashback sequence. I also like how the sequence was done too, because it's in like, I don't know if I'd say like it looks like black and white. It's either black and white or some kind of a like sepia tone or something. I kind of like how they did that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
And then soon after this, we get like another mini flashback showing the younger Yamamoto alongside a much younger Shunsui, who's
mhm.
just a little kid at the time, and he snuck into Yamamoto's quarters, looking into like this picture showing off I guess you could say it's like a picture of Yamamoto's Bankai of sorts, or it could have been something
Yeah,
else.
it's like some kind of painting of him in his Bankai form.
Mhm.
And Yamamoto is like talking about himself in the third person, like saying that that's a monster that should never reappear again, and something like if it ever reappears again, then I forget the exact wording, but he says like it could mean the end of like the Soul Society or something like that,
Yeah.
which is pretty fitting, of course. But and then of course we cut back to and I'm pretty sure everybody expected this was going to happen, but we pretty much get to see Yamamoto's death. He literally just he got like sliced in half.
Jesus.
Like the top half of him just slides off.
It,
It's pretty
I
gruesome.
mean, the lower half of his body is still standing, if you
Yeah.
noticed. And I completely forgot about this happening, but I mentioned this before that like I was wondering why he was missing his left arm. I completely
Oh,
forgot
right. We should mention
about
that too.
yeah,
So I completely forgot about this as well. So this apparently happened in the fake Karakura Town arc, where he loses his arm. Yawak mentions this at one point that he could have restored his arm if he had gotten or he made it heal him, but he refused because of I don't know if it's because of his pride or something like that. He didn't want his left arm to be healed or his left
Mhm.
arm to regenerate, I guess.
Yeah. And just the way that Yamamoto goes out, it's just almost insult to injury because
Yeah.
you would think like normally you would have like an opponent looking down on him like just like Yamamoto just tries to grab onto Iwak with whatever strength he has left, and you would think
Mhm.
that Iwak would show some form of respect toward Yamamoto of sorts, but he just completely just butchers, whatever's left of him, like
I feel
almost.
like I feel like it could just be because he's maybe like just trying to take. He's just having no mercy on him because of what happened. What we saw in that flashback, like what happened thousands of years ago.
Yeah, and then what he like this. I think he just completely annihilates whatever's left of Yamamoto until there's like
Yeah,
almost no trace of him.
he blows him up pretty much.
Yeah,
Uh,
and then
and
things just completely go from bad to so much worse up to that point where they just summon the remaining Quincy army just to slaughter the remaining Soul Reapers in the Serete.
Yeah, and of course all the captains and like lieutenants feel Yamamoto's spiritual oppressor like disappear, and
Yeah,
it pretty much just completely destroys their morale.
yeah, it's, particularly Shunsui because he's, obviously he has
Uh,
a close relationship with Yamamoto, and he gets shot multiple times.
I I kind of hope he's not dead, but I mean I feel like he might be considering the way that scene was done. Uh,
Yeah,
and also
and
that's just the fact that we got a flashback that was focused on Shunsui.
mhm.
Kind of makes me think he could be dead.
Yeah, and then as soon as things got so bad, Ichigo finally shows up after after being trapped in that prison for the last
Mhm.
2 episodes. And like the first thing that happens is like he tries to save the guy that he tried to open the portal, but he gets shot by
Back
another
on.
Quincy. Yeah, and then of course Ichigo just completely destroys that Quincy right in front of him, and then of
I
course
like
the
how
first.
they did this scene too, by the way, because it's they do it in a first person's perspective. Like, uh, he breaks out of the jail and he goes into first person, and then like there's one of the Stern Ridders that's about to challenge Ichigo, and it's not even a fight. Like Ichigo just takes him down immediately, and he like you could tell like Ichigo is pissed. Like this is probably as pissed as he's ever been. Like he's really angry.
Yeah, he
Uh,
like he sees Renji down, he sees Rukia down, and then of course, the first captain he meets up with is of course Byakuya, who's pretty much like almost dying at this point, with Byakuya just being ashamed with um, leading a lot of his men to their deaths, and his of apparent bad decision of unleashing his Bankai in front of the enemy. And so, he feels some form of responsibility for Ichigo, saying that he shouldn't be involved in this fight, but he makes apparently one final plea towards Ichigo, just to protect the Soul Society and save everyone. And Ichigo, like, just, oh, I guess according to Byakuya, saying he just turns around and just leaves, unless he couldn't hear what the reply Ichigo gave him. And
No,
of
I
course,
mean, I feel like this is one of those scenes where he really doesn't need to say anything. Well, even Byakuya says he doesn't need to say anything because he understood what, Ichigo's answer was.
mhm.
Um, but also, I just really like how the scene was done. Uh, so in the manga, we just got this shot of Ichigo standing there, looking really serious. But in the anime, I feel like I really like how the scene was done. I almost feel like it was done a little bit better because they go into like the slow mo scene, and the rain that's falling is not even hitting Ichigo. I guess it's just trying to show that his Reiatsu, or his spiritual pressure, has increased to such an extent to where like all the rain just dissipates when it tries to hit him. Uh, and then we get that shot from the manga where we just see his face looking, he's just looking really angry.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, he leaves Byakuya there, and we see like Byakuya's Zanpakuto just completely shatter, which for those who don't know, like if somebody's like if a Zanpakuto is destroyed, like it pretty much means that somebody is either dead or near death. Um, and this really seemed like a death scene. Of course, like I know what happens later in the manga. I'm not going to spoil anything, but yeah, it really seems like Byakuya is probably dead here. But
yeah.
I mean, I feel like this would be a fitting death scene for Byakuya, to be honest, though.
Mhm. Yeah, but however, of course, the next scene, Ichigo, the first person Ichigo runs into is, of course, Yawak, and of course, he wanted to confirm whether or not Yawak is the one responsible um
Well,
for
I like
everything
how,
that's
how the
happened in
scene
the.
plays out too, because Yawak tries to walk away and Ichigo just doesn't even let him. He just like throws his Zanpakuto like right in front of him just to stop him.
Yeah, and as soon as Ichigo finds out that Yawak is responsible, things just things just dial up to an 11, to the point where we just see it. They just go all out against each other.
Oh,
Like I
I
said.
will say too, like I really want to just talk about how the visuals are in this episode too, because like it's the most impressive part as well of the episode. I mean, much like the last episode, but I feel like this one too, just there's a lot of really interesting choices with like how they animate things, or the arts. Because like when you see Ichigo about to fight Yawak, like you see he has red eyes for a second, and he's just like the red aura of his Bankai, I guess. It's just really intense. And yeah, I thought that was done really well. And also just like you said, we have this fight, like this midair fight with Ichigo and Yawak just kind of clashing against each other. And this is also really well animated too, much like the last episode was. It's very fluid.
Yeah, and they almost seemed like a match to against each other, despite Ichigo's injuries. I mean, you can tell like his Zanpakuto, or his Bankai, is completely like worn out at this point after his last fight, or whatever he was trying to do to escape the prison. And it
Yeah.
almost gets to the point where Yawak actually stabs Ichigo in the neck, but to his surprise, Ichigo has this like special ability that only Quincy's use, which is to, I guess, to be impervious to like sword attacks or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think it's called Bloot or Blut. But it was what Kilgay was using. I think Kilgay had it. We saw it with some of the other Stern Ritter. But it's something that is exclusive to Quincy's, and basically like the reason why we find out that Ichigo has this is because when he was in Kilgay's jail, that Kilgay's the spiritual pressure of Kilgay had somehow merged with Ichigo's soul, and had made it so that he now has this ability. However, Yawak also points out that the only people that could escape from the jail, and the only kind of people this could even happen to, is a Quincy. So yeah, that is more or less confirmation that of course, is Ichigo is also a Quincy. Because Yawak also references Ichigo's mother as well, because he also knows about Ichigo's mother, and I guess Ichigo's past. So yeah, Ichigo has full bring. He's a Shinigami. He's also a Quincy. So
and he's also like what was it,
oh yeah,
Arankar
he's
as
also
well?
like he also has the abilities of an Arankar.
Yeah, it's like he's on literally everything in this show, and and of course, it also explains how Ichigo is not able to lose his Bankai against the other Stern Raiders. Um,
Yeah.
so that's pretty much like definitely a good explanation as to why. And with Ichigo's mother's potentially being revealed as a Quincy, is definitely a pretty good twist in itself.
Yeah, I think so. But at this point, Yawak also tries to leave, and he tries to leave Ichigo there. But Ichigo stands up and tries again, and once again to tries to stop him. But he is well, actually, no. Before this happens, Yawak was going to stay. Yawak's original plan actually was to like take Ichigo and I guess to convert Ichigo over to his side. But he realized he wouldn't be able to do this, and they realize they've also run out of time. Like they can only be there, I guess, for a certain amount of time. And the reason that I guess Yawak didn't realize this is because Aizen, I suppose Aizen must have put him under some kind of hypnosis or something to where he thought maybe he had more time or something. But his subordinate, I think his name was Hashwald, says that they won't be able to stay there any much longer.
I was surprised that Aizen still has some amount of
it was Koike Sugetsu is his Shikai.
Yeah, I'm a
I
little
guess
bit
somehow
surprised.
he can still use it.
Yeah, even if he's sealed under that prison, like it's a little bit surprising, but he's able to use it to a certain extent to distract Ewok for a certain amount of time to not for him to not realize he was in there for so much longer than he thought he was, and of course like he questions his lieutenant as to why he was never told about this, but his lieutenant says I keep forgetting the guy's name, but.
It was
he
like
tells him that he tells him like there was no point to telling Ewok about this. So eventually, they just decide to leave anyway. But Ichigo once again tries to stop him from leaving, but of course, his Zanpakuto toe gets completely cut in half as soon as he tries to stop him.
Yeah, he also gets restrained by I think. These Quincy arrows or something. Also, like we should point out, like they have like a remix of "Nothing Can Be Explained," which I thought was pretty cool in this scene.
Yeah, I noticed there's a lot of remixed versions of the some themes of of the original series have been remixed at times.
Yeah,
and I thought it was really well done.
I thought it was really fitting here too to have that track. But yeah, I also really like how they left the title like at the end once Yawak leaves and it just cuts to darkness.
Yeah,
I think it was Born in Darkness.
Born in the Dark. Yeah,
because like the last line from Yawak was saying like to Ichigo like farewell my child born in the dark or something like that. And then we also get like a different. It's also cool, worth sticking around for the credits because it's a little bit different because it actually shows the original Gote 13. And it was pretty cool how they did that.
Yeah. I definitely do feel like that this is not the last we've seen of the original Gote 13. They there's obviously back to that. Yeah, there's obviously a good reason as to why Kubo wanted to show them off in the first place, especially when he showed them off last week in that illustration. And now we finally get to see them in action in this episode, even though it's a cameo. I really do feel like there's going to be some kind of special episode within the season that'll showcase these characters.
Yeah, I do hope that we get more flashbacks with them. But yeah, this was. I'm really having a hard time saying whether or not I like this episode better than the last one. I will say I think personally I kind of like it a little bit better because of a few different things. Like we get to see Ichigo again first of all. I was hoping we'd get a really good fight scene, a really well animated fight scene involving Ichigo before this first part of the arc was over, and we did. And I also really liked some the way they did the whole revelation that Ichigo is a Quincy, and also the flashbacks as well. That was really nice. But yeah, I would have to say I I kind of feel like I like this one better, even though I will say the last one has way more, sequences of just really crazy, intense, fight animation and stuff. Like this one has its share of that too, but
Yeah.
uh,
And we're
yeah.
we're only halfway through through this core already, and it's like
Hmm.
even though Ichigo finally goes up against the Ewok for the first time, even though we knew he was not going to beat him at this point, but it
Yeah.
was I think the way
Well,
they presented it
he's
was
still
really
even
good.
managed to put up a fight against him. I mean, just that in and of itself too. And this is right after him fighting Kilgay and being trapped in his jail.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
it's I just yeah I really loved how they handled this episode overall.
yeah.
Definitely I can't wait to see how what's next. I expect it to slow down a little bit based on how the fight and how this entire battle just ended. I mean, we would have to believe that the Soul Society is just gonna be on its knees at this point.
Yeah, I anticipate the next episode will probably be going just kind of basically the Soul Society just trying to recover from basically this like slaughter that's just happened and dealing with the death of Yamamoto. And then of course we have Ichigo just trying to deal with the revelation now that he's also a Quincy. But we also have like whatever's going on with Uryu with him trying to figure out what's going on himself. So there's a lot of stuff they could follow up on there. We also kind of been left hanging. That's another thing. We really don't know what's been going on with Chad and Orihime and
Urahara.
Urahara, yeah, and who that guy or whoever that was that killed Kilgay back in
Hmm.
Wake Up Mundo. So there's a lot of stuff that we just that still needs to be gone over. So yeah, I'm really interested in what's going to happen in the next episode. I thought this is definitely. I want to say it's the best we've gotten so far, honestly, but I don't know. Like we've had a lot of really good episodes so far in this with this adaptation. Um,
Yeah,
but
like it's like it's hard for me to believe that this is that we would have to possibly wait like for whatever how long even if this core ends like I would hate for to have to wait like 3 months before the next core because I really want to
mhm.
see more of this
Yeah.
continue go like all the way to the end.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if they were doing it like they did the original series, that's probably how they would do it. But I
Mhm.
feel like if they did it that way, we wouldn't get these really really amazingly animated fight sequences and stuff. Um, I don't see how we could get that if it was on the same kind of production schedule
Mhm.
that the original series was. Um, but yeah, regardless, I don't really have too much else to say about the episode. I was pretty blown away by it, to be honest. I don't know if you have anything else to say about it.
It's like I, it's I have a hard time picking between this episode and the last episode, but
Yeah.
I really did enjoy this episode a lot more than the last one because this is the one episode I was looking forward to with Ichigo facing off against Ewok for the first time, and of course
Mhm.
dealing with the revelation that that he is part Quincy now.
Yeah, I feel like Ichigo's now going to have like a lot of questions about like his mother specifically.
Hmm.
Um,
I think the one person that he would definitely need to ask is his dad because now he
yeah,
knows that his dad is the Soul Reaper. He would need to get straight answers from him first.
yeah, yeah. You might be onto something there, but that's all I'm going to say about that. So until next week, guys, we will see you all next time.